5 Test series in India gets underway on Thursday. No Harry Brook, no Virat Kohli for the first couple of Tests, so we'll talk about that with Phil Tufnell. Stephen Finn, who was part of the squad which won the series in 2012, and that actually remains the last time that India lost a Test series at home. And Deep Dasgupta, former India wicketkeeper who played in the 2001 series, is with us as well. This series should be big, shouldn't it? Deep, is it feeling big in India?
Definitely, yes. There's absolutely no two ways about it, and especially how England's been playing last maybe couple of years, the kind of approach that the English Test team has had. Obviously, it's a great way of you can call it testing yourself out as well against a strong England side, an England side which is playing Test match cricket very differently from what traditionally we've seen. I think and the other important thing, there are a handful of marquee Test series left now in a calendar year or over the WTC calendar. So this is definitely one of those marquee Test series. So unfortunately, we don't have too many of them left.
No, exactly. Was it a bucket list for you?
Yeah, definitely. It was one of the ones where when you go over there, and at the time we were playing, the first time that I went there, we were playing against Tendulkar, Sehwag, Harbhajan Singh, Zahir Khan, all the heroes. So that for that reason, it was one to tick off on the bucket list. And secondly, as Deep says, it's one of the marquee series that you can play in. It probably has even more significance now than it did 11 years ago in terms of the fading away of the rest of the Test cricket playing nations. So certainly going over to India and testing yourself in a 5-match series, this is going to be a fascinating clash of styles, I think, over the next 6 weeks or so. And I'm really interested to see how it pans out. I
mean, actually, that's the thing, isn't it, Phil, really? If you look at sort of India, England and Australia feeling like, they're the big three in controlling the success of Test cricket. There's quite a lot on this series.
Absolutely. And just listening to the guys there, I think as a player, it is one of the biggest challenges, to go over to India and to win the series. I think it ranks right up there with going to the likes of Australia. It might even be a little bit trickier than going to Australia. There's the conditions, the endurance of it, the pitches and what have you. I think that the guys are going to be right up for it. Really looking forward to it. Can't wait. I think there's going to be so many twos and fros. And it's just whether this Bazball style of play. I mean, I've been hearing Deep that the pitches are going to be a little bit fruity. I just don't know whether you can play that kind of cricket, or is it the way to play that kind of cricket? There's so many ups and downs that I just can't wait to unfold. It's going to be fascinating. Can't wait.
Yeah, I'd go as far as saying it is by far the hardest challenge and toughest place to go and play. I think it's a lot harder for us as a nation who really struggles to develop spinners to challenge in Test match cricket. I think you can go to Australia and by some way of chance you could find a few quick bowlers that can bowl in tandem. At the same time, I think we have more chance of producing people who can compete in Australia than we do when going to India. So you add all of those factors into the mix, and a long tour over 5 Test matches, it's by far the toughest, I would say.
Well, Phil got straight in there, didn't he, with Bazball? So let's before we get stuck into it, let's hear from the man himself. Here is Brendan McCullum.
Oh, as long as they're entertaining, I think. When we started out on this journey a fair while ago, we wanted to, provide as much entertainment as what we possibly can, and felt that gave us our best chance of success as well. And what better stage to do it on against India in India? There's going to be, many eyeballs watching around the world, and it's a huge opportunity for us. India's a land of opportunity, and that's what sits in front of us for now. So that's the exciting thing. How long the games go, got no idea, but I'm sure both teams will stick to their respective styles. I don't expect us to change our style. It gives us our best chance, and I'm sure India will do the same too. Just like throughout the Ashes, it was 2 heavyweights going at it, and with different styles, and we expect it to be the same in this series.
Just following the news that Harry received, how have the rest of the group rallied around and come together?
Oh, brilliantly, as you'd expect. He's a much loved member of the squad, and guys have reached out in their own way. So we just we want him to be as comfortable as what he possibly can during this time, and when he's back, when he gets back, the guys will wrap their arms around him as well.
How did you go last week? And then presumably after doing that preparation, you haven't got Harry and you haven't got Shoaib now you've arrived here in India. How disruptive is that after what you did work on last week?
Well, I was actually just coming across the top a little bit with my golf swing, so I was sort of hitting the left to right. But no, it was a great week. Obviously, it's no secret that we enjoy trying to enjoy ourselves as a team as well, and those things away from cricket fields are super important to this side. A lot of our messaging is consistent, not just around the cricket field, but also around daily life, and that includes enjoying yourself. So, look, the preparation was brilliant. Abu Dhabi Cricket have done a wonderful job. Their facilities out there are as good as anywhere in the world. They give us free rein to create the type of pitches and setup that we need. And the guys, we walked away from Abu Dhabi with a huge amount of confidence that we've prepared as well as we possibly can on the back of these next few days as well.
How's Ben Stokes? The last time we saw him playing cricket, or after the last time we saw him playing cricket, he's had a little bit of surgery.
Yeah, he looks like a greyhound. He's stripping fit. So, he's put the hard work in. Everyone knows his work ethic is phenomenal, and I've seen him running around, and I think he's good to go. We'll obviously make that call as late as what we need to, but he's put all the work in, and then we'll just have to wait and see.
When Ben couldn't bowl in the summer, Moeen Ali and Chris Woakes balanced the side out. Neither of those two players are here. How can you see the side being balanced out here now?
Well, it's obviously a little bit different spinning conditions. We've got, Joe Root's a vital cog in that, so we've got options there. What balance we go for in terms of the side, we'll work out in the coming days. I think the thing that we need to be is really brave with whatever we decide. Take the positive option with what we think gives us our best opportunity, and other teams might be better, but we want to be the bravest. So we've got to do that, and that's got to be replicated in some of your selections too.
We know you always want to take the positive option and be brave, but how do you tweak your approach maybe to suit the conditions that you're going to encounter?
Well, do you need to tweak it? I don't know. I guess in the end all you're trying to do is get guys in the frame of mind where they're totally present in the moment. They feel 10 foot tall and bulletproof when they walk out to play, and then it's allowing their skills and their talents to come out. They make quick assessments of what they need to do in the moment. I guess we've got to take 20 wickets with the ball in each test match, and we've got to get one more run than them with the bat. So it's not rocket science, but it'll be the nuances of the game and when to stick and when to twist, which will be the fascinating part. And that's what I love about this series is we are going to be tested, and our methods are going to be challenged, and we'll see where we're at. But it's a pretty exciting opportunity.
Brendan McCullum with Stefan Schemmel. I suppose my first question, Phil, I was trying to think of, there were about three different questions.
How long the games are going to go? I think it's going to be the first one.
Do you need to tweak it, was what Brendan McCullum put back to Stefan. Yeah. Do you think it needs to be tweaked?
Well, they're obviously going to play definitely two spinners. You've got to definitely play two spinners. It's whether they pop another one. I remember pop another one in there and how they go about that. I think.
But their overall approach, I'll do seamers and spinners in a bit, but their overall approach, how they bat.
Well, I think you've got to be a little bit more cautious, I think. There's no point in going on there because sometimes there's going to be a ball with your name on it. So you've got to be positive. You've got to go out there, but also you've just got to be aware of the situation of the game. I think the tosses are going to be crucial. First innings runs are going to be crucial. And so there are little bits and pieces that you've got to sort of factor in playing in India. But I think they're going to go out there. They're going to look to be positive. But sometimes that can catch up with you a little bit, but I don't think they're going to be changing the way they play. You heard Brendan there saying that, bulletproof, positive, go out and play your way, and I think that's exactly what they're going to do.
Although the approach of being relaxed and enjoying yourself is a valid one, Stephen.
I would agree. I think there's been quite healthy debate over the last few weeks with a few ex-players being aggrieved at the fact that England have landed 4 days before the first test match, and whether that's ample preparation time for them to feel ready to play a test series. Steve Harmison in particular was quite vociferous about it, but I sort of look back to 2012 and there's a couple of things I would say. The warm-up games that we played in 2012, the two of them, I think, we ended up playing against 4 medium pacers and no spinners. Yeah. So India deliberately fielded a team that would give us poor preparation, going into that test series. So England would have felt more in control going to Abu Dhabi to do that training camp.
And actually, Alistair Cook, Stephen, has said exactly that in the Times. I can understand why England want to practice in a controlled environment where they know what the nets and facilities are going to be like, and there's nothing too unpredictable. It's almost always a half-strength team that gets put out in a warm-up match. I'd like at least one warm-up game, but it would be good if there was some sort of unwritten agreement between countries to put on decent practice matches in decent conditions for touring teams.
Yeah, I'd completely agree with that. There should be something in the charter that says you play against the A team or something. I know the England Lions and India A are playing a series at the moment, but in order to make it competitive, I think people want to watch competitive test match cricket, and I think the warm-up period and the preparation is vital to that. And just the second thing that I was going to mention there about the way that Brendan McCullum talks about enjoyment and the players enjoying it, and I think that that's vitally important, because in 2012 and the years preceding that and then the year after that, there was a real intensity about every time we turned up somewhere. We wanted to play every single game to win it. We wanted every practice session to be at 100% intensity, and the team just burned out. It was a team that could have played for years more together, but by the time we got to the end of the 2013-14 Ashes series, the team was exhausted and sick of each other, and it all crumpled in a heap. On that tour, quite famously, Kevin Peterson never played for England again, which was a huge loss, which now, with the attitude that these guys have and the way that they approach it, I can't see happening, which I think is a very good thing.
Do you think India are poised to take advantage of an aggressive England in this? Do you think we're in their own conditions and knowing what they need to do deep, do you think they are ready to take advantage?
Yes, obviously they are. I mean, this is again, if you look at the batting unit as such, I mean, there is going to be a few changes. Obviously, you won't have Pujara and Ajinkya now for the first couple of test matches. You won't have Virat Kohli as well. So that whole middle order is kind of new. It's good that KL Rahul got some runs against South Africa. He got that brilliant 100 against South Africa. That was really good. But that middle order is kind of new. So is kind of the opening pair. I mean, suddenly now Shubman is not opening. He's batting at 3 and Yashasvi is opening. So when you look at that Indian batting order, that is kind of new. And I would say they're not completely settled. But yes, they still have enough experience out there and obviously playing in home conditions. But just to address that, the warm-up match situation, I think that's something I completely agree with both Phil and Finney about it. You've got to have that agreement unwritten, because I still remember India did the same thing in 21 when they toured England, right? They cancelled their warm-up game and said, it does not make sense. It's 14 against 14 or 15 against 15. Half the time, the pitches that you're going to play got nothing to do with the pitches you're going to play in the test matches. Bowling and stuff like that. I think it would make more sense if boards beforehand can have that chat amongst themselves and say, you know what, just give us one proper warm-up game, because it does help. As it is, it's not practical. Like going back to good 15, 20 years ago, you would still be playing couple of at least warm-up games before the series would start. Maybe put one in between the series as well, warm-up games. But I don't think that's practical now. But we still got to find something, because I guess India versus South Africa series was a great example. 2 test match series. By the time India was touring South Africa, before they kind of got into the series was over. You could see the difference in that Indian side in the first test match and the second test match. Thank God this is a 5-test series. So at least from that perspective, England would have enough time to kind of get into the series and get used to the conditions and everything else.
Let's do Virat Kohli first, and then we'll do Harry Brook, because you mentioned, Deep, no Virat Kohli for the first couple of tests, and this is the first time he has missed a test in 2 years for India. So what will be the impact on this Indian team, their starting 11? Because it's more than just a batting lineup impact, isn't it?
That's right. That's so true, because a couple of things. One is, I think he's one of the biggest advocates of test match cricket all over the world right now. I mean, he hasn't missed test matches, always kind of preferred to play test over other formats. And one is that. Secondly, the other thing I mentioned about the newish looking middle order. that's where his absence going to make a huge difference, as well as, and he's definitely part of that leadership group. So him not being there, obviously one of the mainstays, and also one of the leaders in that dressing room is definitely. And also what happens is he's been missing quite a few of these series and matches in the last few months, and I hope whatever is kind of bothering him, he gets over all of that. But obviously, I mean, because you've been together for so many years, most of these guys, that can have an effect on that dressing room as well when one of your mates isn't feeling well, or the family's not feeling well, or whatever it is, whatever the personal situation is. I guess that can have an effect on that dressing room itself, because, I mean, it's like your family. That dressing room is your family. So, and I, like I said, he's going to be a huge miss. Absolutely no two ways about it.
Yeah, Chappers, I think England will see that. I know this is hopefully everything's okay with the family and what, but I think England will see that as a huge, boost for the first two Test matches. You've got your number one main gun. He's such a talismanic sort of figure in that Indian team. I think that England will be really jumping all over that. And as Deep says, that slight sort of newish middle order. I mean, the bowling for India is pretty much settled, you know what I mean? And you kind of know what you're going to get. It's probably one of the best attacks there is knocking about. But, with that batting lineup, you can just perhaps see them thinking to themselves, if we can just get into it with no Kohli in that middle order, we might be able to, create a bit of havoc in there.
Well, and also, as Deep said, Stephen, it's a leadership group thing as well. He may no longer be captain, but he is still an ear to lend, isn't he?
Yeah, as a captain or as a senior player, you want to be, to be part of that group. It makes a massive difference. And also what Deep said there, Virat Kohli has almost single-handedly over the last 5 or 6 years kept Test match cricket going at times, it feels like. And I think he probably doesn't get the respect that he deserves in terms of what he's done to make people still want to watch Test match cricket, and the way that he really changed that Indian team around from 2014, and he took over the captaincy, made them fitter. They found all these bowlers that bowled 90 mile an hour all of a sudden, and they were reinvigorated, and he was central to that. So it's a real shame not to see him playing the first two Test matches. We obviously wish him and his family well, but hopefully he'll be back for the third.
Will it, given his popularity, Deep, will that affect crowds? And actually, the other thing that is important in India, TV viewership as well.
It might affect, but let's not forget this India versus England. If this had been any other series, maybe would have had a bigger effect. But he'd definitely be missed. But like I said, it's a marquee Test series, and everyone's kind of looking forward to seeing England play in these conditions, because of, again, the kind of approach that England Test team has had in the last couple of years. Everyone's like, okay, can you do the same thing here in India as well in these conditions? So that's going to be interesting. I think while, yes, he'll be definitely missed, and viewership and everything else, maybe not as much, because I think the whole country is looking forward to it, this series.
The TMS Podcast on BBC Sounds.
The drama.
They're having to be separated. They've both been shown the red card.
The entertainment. The superstars.
Foden! Oh, yes! What a goal.
Welcome to the Planet Premier League podcast. I'm Mark Chapman, and every week Cesc Fabregas, Nader Manua and myself talk all things Premier League.
They have this dynamism and this quality that they can play anywhere. They need to prove themselves in scoring more and more goals.
I think if they don't win the title this year, the season is a failure in the league.
Planet Premier League. Listen on BBC Sounds.
The TMS Podcast from BBC Radio 5 Live.
England will have their own middle order shuffle to do, won't they, Stephen? With no Harry Brook. He's flown home for personal reasons. He may come back later in the series. Given his Test match form, given that he is only one of three players actually who signed a 3-year central contract, which kind of highlights his importance to this England team, they might be able to reshuffle and maybe even be a bit better balanced, who knows, but he's a massive loss.
Huge loss, yeah. The way that he fearlessly plays cricket and approaches Test match cricket. Sort of maybe bordered on the side of reckless a couple of times in the summer with his dismissals in the Ashes, but actually after those first couple of Test matches he tightened his game up and he looked formidable and was a huge reason why England won at Headingley as well. So he'll be a big loss in that middle order. Again, we wish him and his family well, but I think he'll be missed. But what it will do, actually, it saves McCullum and Stokes having a difficult conversation with someone, because from what we've heard or what we've seen, it looks as though Ben Foakes has been doing wicket-keeping drills, which means that he'll take the gloves, and Johnny Bairstow will probably move up and occupy that number 5 slot. So I think Ben Foakes and his glove work, especially if, as Brendan McCullum mentioned, we expect the wickets to turn, will be a massive part in this series to make sure that they don't miss any opportunities.
It's sort of a case, isn't it, Phil, of not being stronger or weaker, but just being different.
Well, yes, a little bit, but I think England will miss Harry Brook. As Steve was saying, that feel is sort of like way... I mean, he really does he really is sort of Bazball, isn't he? He was the first one to really come in and sort of like change all that around, young fella and what have you. And also, of course, probably behind Joe Root, one of the best players of spin. He
had a great tour to Pakistan.
Absolutely.
Three centuries in 3 tests.
Absolutely. So he knows his way around the spinning delivery. And looks to go after it a little bit similar like Joe. He's got all the shots, so I do think it will be a big loss. But you're right, it's just going to be a slightly different look to it without him there.
Just to add to both of them is also the fact that Harry Brooks had that experience last season of playing in India in the IPL. Yeah. And the first test is in Hyderabad, and that was his home team, home franchise. So that also will kind of have an effect, because once you've played somewhere, you've been there, you've spent 2 months in Hyderabad, that, and that's the first test, which is so crucial in a series like this. So I think, obviously not just the batter that he is or the class act that he is, and also I think he's, for a lot of people outside England, he's the poster boy of baseball cricket, like you both mentioned. He's young. He plays that brand of cricket, and that's him. So I think that's a big miss for sure for England as well.
Just also on that, Dee, we talk about Brook and Hyderabad, but when touring, when there are players with a touring test team who are playing in the IPL as well, are the crowds different towards those players in greater recognition? I mean, going back to that men's World Cup, anything that went against India, the silence was absolutely deafening in those games. Will it be slightly different in the tests when it's players who have performed successfully for IPL teams?
I think it's Finney who mentioned in somewhere where he said you've got to befriend the crowd, and I think he's so right about it. Because I still remember it was India versus South Africa in Dharamshala. I still remember there were more cheers when AB de Villiers came out to bat than any of the Indian players, because he's so loved. So once you have like someone like Baz himself who's loved, who's Ben Stokes. I mean, you have these Joe Root, absolutely yes. So all these guys. I mean, obviously you won't feel that. I mean, when you're talking about the World Cup and the pin drop silence, I guess there were a couple of venues you can. But in general, I would say, I think it'll be a very different environment, and especially for someone like Bairstow. I mean, he spent quite a few years in Hyderabad. So Bairstow, I mean, he knows that place very well as well. So I'm sure he's going to have a few fans, rooting for him as well. So I think it's going to be a little different.
When we went in 2012, probably 3 of my most memorable series, 2012 against India, 2010-11 against Australia winning away, and 2016 winning against South Africa away. One of the things that you vie to do as an opposition team is to sort of turn the press and turn the public on their own team. And you feel as though you go from having all of these people pushing against you to them pushing with you. And we really felt it on those 3 tours. And certainly having gone to the World Cup and and sort of seeing this tidal wave of Indian support, and then you get to the final and they lost, and how it went the other way. I think that's something with the IPL superstars, McCullum, Stokes, Bairstow, and the like, they're in amongst this England team. I think that could count to their benefit when trying to turn that momentum, which can be so hard if you get behind it in a series over in India.
Are there dark arts to that, or is it simply by beating them?
Well, I think beating them. I think you play a bit of a game on social media, talk about things in the press. I think all things like that, how much you're enjoying the country, because it's an amazing country to tour. And people start to think, do you know what, we really like the way these guys play their cricket. We don't mind seeing them beat our team.
Phil,
and that's so true. I mean, I think a lot of it is how do you communicate via the media to the rest of the country. Generally, if you're like not making excuses or not complaining about things, and you seem to be enjoying yourself and going out and meeting people and stuff, and suddenly you have the crowd on your side, so you get on side with the crowd. I think that kind of helps as well, and especially on a longish tour, 5 test match tour and all that.
Because there is nothing more annoying, Phil, than finding out the touring team are likeable.
Absolutely, yes.
But there isn't, is there? Oh, you watch behind the scenes documentary or everything. Oh my God, I actually quite like that. Oh, what am I doing?
Yeah, we probably pushed it a little too far, actually. But the boys are absolutely right, and that's why it's going to be so crucial. Those first couple of test matches, just the way you play, the way you carry yourself, the way you are seen, as you say, as the guys have said, you've got to try and get that momentum sort of shift. But I mean, believe you me, it's going to be difficult. When I went there in 92, it was like backs against the wall a little bit, which didn't help us at all, and we were sort of like, that there weren't any nets, and there was this little sort of like feeling that we were a little bit grumpy about everything, and as you say, it totally worked against us.
So if we are assuming then that Folkes is in and Bairstow goes to 5, it means you've got Crawley, Duckett, Pope, Root, Bairstow, Stokes and Folkes. So that, Phil, leaves you with 4 spots for your bowlers. What are you doing?
Can't play 12 again, can we?
No, look, for old time's sake, you can do your team with 12 in it, but...
Well, Jack Leach for me's got to play, and I think Rayan Ahmed. I think that's going to give them that little bit of mystery. And then you're going to go with James Anderson, and then it's going to probably come down to the likes of, is it going to be Ollie Robinson as a sort of, I'm going to ask Steve this, or a Mark Wood. When you were over there, Steve, what was your sort of like role, and what were you told to bowl? You were out and out quick, or that holding sort of role?
Well, I think as a seamer you have to play a number of roles, because generally there'll only be 2 of you in a test match over in India. So you have to be quite versatile with the facets of the game that you bowl in, and typically it would be to take the new ball and try and make an inroad there, and try and make sure that Virender Sehwag didn't hammer you through point for the first session. And then as the day wears on, it's about conserving energy. So you'll see the bowlers just sort of grazing around, especially someone like Mark Wood will be grazing around, and then you wait for your moment. And as soon as that ball looks as though it's reverse swinging, as soon as it looks like there might be variable bounce, anything that's in your favour, that's when you have to be fresh and ready to go for a hard, fast 4 or 5 over burst to try and take a wicket. And then you go off to graze again out in the field. So, yeah, you have to take on a number of different roles. That the only caveat to that is, and the thing that England will be having to weigh up, is the fact that when I played there in 2012, we had Swan and Panesar as our spinners, and you could throw the ball to both of those because they were at the top of their game at the time.
So that attack then was you, Swan, Panesar,
and Anderson,
and Jimmy.
Yeah, and me and Stuart Broad sort of swapped around through the series as the second seamer, but then we'd have a Jonathan Trott who could bowl 5 overs. We had Samit Patel played a couple of the test matches, guys who could fill in those overs, but a bulk of the work was done by those 2 spinners in tandem do England have two spinners that can control the Indian batting lineup as those two did at that stage? I think that is something that, again, if you're only playing those two seamers and the spinners get whacked out of the attack, because India will come hard at the spinners because that's their way to tire England out, then you've only got two seamers trying to control and take wickets. That's when it comes hard.
I think that, the big thing is, Ashwin Jadeja, versus perhaps Rayan Ahmed and Jack Leach. Now, is Jack better than Jadeja? No. Is Rayan Ahmed better than Ashwin? No. But it depends on tosses. If you can get a foothold in the game and the wicket starts going up and down a little bit and starts jumping and starts turning, those two can create just as many problems in my eyes. As you say, again, we got it wrong in 1992. I think we played. I think at the first test in Calcutta, we played three seamers and one spinner, and I think that India played one seamer and three spinners. That's how far behind we were. Kapil Dev was about 60 or something, but So I think that. It's a very strange position being a spin bowler in India, because it's on you, but you do have it to work with, and sometimes you can just go up there, and if you get a bit of luck, and if you want to, as Steve was saying, if the Indian batsmen want to take you down and there is something happening for you, very, very quickly you can put a side under pressure if you just have a bit of luck and bowl well.
No, it's on you and try too hard, do you mean?
Well, a little bit, yes,
Force
a little
it.
bit. And yeah, that's right. Force it a little bit, because everyone's, as you say, Steve's grazing around a fine leg, going, don't give me the ball. Come on, spinners, it's up to you to do it. You know what I mean? And so you do feel that pressure, but then I think that now with Brendan McCullum in charge of it all, it's a bit like, no, go out and enjoy it. Don't be under pressure. Go out and enjoy it. Go through your skills.
Sorry, Dave, go on.
Just to add to that, I think it's also going to be unfair to kind of compare the Indian spinners vis-a-vis the English. And I hope the English spinners don't look at it that way. No. It's not about Jack Leach v Jadeja or maybe Hartley or Rayan v Ashwin, because you can get into really dark places if you're trying to kind of compete with your opposite number and someone.
Do you mean on an individual basis?
Exactly. So not an individual basis. I mean, at times you can get sucked into that. You know what? Let's try and do what Jadeja is doing. Let Jack Leach do what he's doing. Let Jack Leach do what Jack Leach does. Let's Jadeja do what he does. And that's what I'm saying. There can be and there is a tendency. I've kind of noticed it and observed it in the past, that you kind of pitting individual v individual. Yeah. So Virat takes on Joe Root, or Rohit takes on Ben Stokes or someone else, and the spinners v spinners. Rather than that, I think and I honestly think under this team management and the way that England's playing, it's going to be quite interesting. And just to quickly add to what you were talking about with a big question is, will Bazball succeed in these conditions? I was just looking at the numbers, and I covered the 2021 series when England toured. 8 innings, only 3 innings of 150 plus, playing the usual traditional orthodox cricket. So might as well just go out there, have fun, bat, express yourself. It can't get worse than that. 3 innings of 150 plus in 8.
Phil, Deep says don't compare
difficult.
The spinners.
It's difficult.
Don't compare them individually on individuals, right?
No.
Mike Atherton in the Times. Yeah. India's 4 spinners have 849 test wickets. England have 131. So, India's spinners, these numbers are sensational. India's spinners have bowled 86,484 balls in first-class cricket. England have bowled 32,632, of which Jack Leach has bowled 26,500 of those. Now, what it does show, obviously, is that the other 3, aside from Leach, are inexperienced. And that's another challenge out there.
Absolutely. And I totally agree with what Deep's saying there about you can't do that, but it doesn't half creep into you when you're 3-0 down and Anil Kumble's getting 6-fers and 7-fers and you're walking off with 2 for 140. You know what I mean? And the guys do just look at you a little bit.
Good effort, toughest.
Come on, boys. You know what I mean? So it does creep into it, and I think that's where the team's got to stay strong. I mean, I had that a lot with Shane Warne as well, and it just naturally, you just feel like you're not, contributing as much as the other guy who's up against you, and it's a very sort of singular place to be as a spin bowler. So you've got to work with the team. I understand what Deep's saying, and I'm sure that the likes of Stokesy and Brendan McCullum will be sort of saying this, and that message will be coming through. Let's do it as a unit. I think that's what England have got to do. They've got to do it from 1 to 11. Everyone, when you go to India, has got to contribute. It's as simple as that. And so that includes the seamers. The seamers just can't bowl a couple of overs, get 1 for, and then go, there you go, boy, you get on with it and bowl them out for us. There's got to be that togetherness. But it is going to be tricky. It is going to be tricky. But if the tosses fall your way, and you get a decent track and you get runs and put some pressure on, and then it starts to turn and the odd one goes underground, I can see Jack Leach and our spinners getting wickets. I like the inclusion of Hartley. I think he'll run up there and bowl just a little bit similar to like a Monty Panesar. He won't be looking to use his, there's no point in using particular sort of flight and guile sometimes in India. Sometimes it's just about get it on the spot, jam it into that good length on middle and off stump, and let the wicket do it.
Yeah, that's why Hartley's been picked, isn't it? It's because he's tall. So Bashir was picked ahead of someone like Jack Carson, who plays for Sussex, who's slightly shorter and bowls it into the surface. You've got Bashir and Hartley, are both guys 6'4" plus. They're big lads, and it's that bounce, I think, that challenges people in India. And off the back of that, these guys are inexperienced, but I think the one of the things that I've really loved the most, and one of the things that when I get asked about it in an interview and people say, would you like to play for this Bazball team? And I think of myself as the 20-year-old that made my debut for England, and I felt loads of pressure all the time. And that was because the environment was intense and because I built it up in my head all the time. The thing that I would have loved about this is that the freedom that you're given to go out there and just bowl and express yourself, and the backing that you feel all the time. McCullum will always be backing you. I've played under him, and you feel so much confidence when you play for him. And I'd imagine Ben Stokes as a captain would do exactly the same thing. So, I think that environment and that attitude will help these guys. If they are to succeed, that'll be a big factor in it.
But Deep, whichever one of the younger three plays alongside Leach, you would expect to be targeted, wouldn't you?
Absolutely, and that's where I think if I'm in that camp, I'm going to pick Jehan, because obviously he's attacking. He's a leg spinner. He's going to be attacking, and like you said, he will be attacked. So you rather use, and that's where I think someone like Joe Root, the bowler, becomes very, very important, because I think Phil mentioned it before as well, and so did Finney. It's important that somebody gives control, and that's where I think Jack Leach and Joe Root would be important, giving control to Ben Stokes. And Jehan can be used as an out-and-out attacking bowler, where you say, you know what, it doesn't matter, you go at 6 and over, 5 and over, just go out there, get some wickets. I think, yes, they will be targeted. I think it'll be very, very important how they're being used as well. Yeah. And that's where I think someone like Jack Leach is going to be, obviously, and Joe Root, very, very important, even as bowlers, giving control.
Also another, just a quick thing on the spin bowler, it's going to be crucial of how like fields are set as well, as you were saying there, Deep, you know what I mean, about how they're used, the times they're used, the fields they're used. You just don't have a load of men round the back because it's spinning, you know what I mean, and then all of a sudden you can get on top of it. So it's fascinating. I can't wait to see. The best thing in Test cricket for me, I know I'm slightly biased, is a spin bowler, but I mean, it is so great to see Test matches that develop like that. It's so exciting, and you get to see the skills, you get to see the tactics, and Ben Stokes as a captain, I think, has been superb actually so far. You know, I don't think he's particularly put a foot wrong. You know, the odd one, perhaps the declaration at Edgbaston was a little bit iffy, but I think that he thinks like a spin bowler. Sometimes captains think like, you know, they don't quite see how you're sort of reacting as a spin bowler, but I think Ben Stokes does.
just to sort of round off the bowling, I suppose. It's frustrating he can't bowl, the England captain, isn't it? Because if you think of that and the option of Root, then 2 seamers, 2 spinners as well, Stephen, the options and the balance you would have.
Well, yeah, he's had this knee surgery, it would be about 6 weeks or 2 months ago, and I think I've seen the same knee surgeon 3 times through my career, and the recovery's not simple. I don't know exactly what he's had done. I'm not sure they've released what he's had done, but the recovery from a big knee operation like that, to trust yourself to land again, is going to be tricky, and it takes a long time to get that confidence back. So whether we will see Ben Stokes bowl through this series is clearly yet to be seen, but the balance that he gives to the team when he can bowl is huge, because it just alleviates that pressure. He becomes that strike bowler that can bowl through the really tough periods where you need a breakthrough, and previous captains would say, right, throw the ball to Ben Stokes. Probably why his knee's in the position it's in now, you'd think. Those 14 or 16 over spells that he was bowling through the 2019 Ashes, but certainly that balance that he brings to the team when he bowls would really have helped this England team out.
Deep, were you coming in? Thought you got your hand up.
No. I thought the other important thing what Ben Stokes does as a bowler, he bowls a lot of those leg cutters. Those things are going to be very, very useful on those surfaces. Yeah. You know, those cutters, the slower deliveries, and those leg cutters come naturally to him. So those the off-pace deliveries that he bowls, and obviously, I mean, he's 100% cricketer. He gives everything. So I think, apart from the combination as well, but I think Ben Stokes, the bowler in these conditions, can be quite lethal.
Well, that's interesting you say that. So you're thinking someone like a Robinson then could play in front ahead of a Mark Wood, do you think, Deep?
My only thing is what Mark Wood brings to the table is it's a very rare thing, which is raw pace. Skiddy, raw pace. Obviously, his front knee buckles, so his release point is a lot lower, so he kind of skids through. But that pace, if he can bowl at 145 plus 150, which he does consistently, because I'm looking at the venues as well, right? So if you think about the venues, Hyderabad can turn, Vizag can turn, Rajkot generally is a highway, right? So there's a very good chance that even though it might be spin friendly, but it might be a really good surface to bat on. And the 5th one is Dharamshala. Dharamshala again can be a really good surface to bat on. So I think when you're planning in terms of rotating your bowlers and stuff like that, you've got to be mindful of the venues and when you're playing and what, all that stuff.
Yeah.
Just on Stokes, his biggest challenge coming back on the bowling front, as you've had the same thing, is that trust in the knee on the landing, more than refining rhythm and so on and so forth. It's that trust in your knee. Yeah,
but that affects your rhythm and feeling. So you sort of, when you're bowling and you're running up to bowl, you expect things to hit the ground at a certain time. You expect things to brace at a certain time instinctively, and that's how you get that whip and that zip off the end of your fingertips as a bowler. But when that front knee lands and you're a bit tentative because you don't know if this is going to hurt, is it going to go again, it buckles, everything becomes out of sync. And I really struggled after my first knee surgery in 2017. I was never really the same bowler again because I bowled around that front knee rather than over it, because I never trusted it again properly. No matter how much hard work I did, it never really came back. So that's a really challenging thing, and especially in such a big series, to have had that surgery and then come back, to expect him to bowl, I feel like might be a bridge too far.
And in amongst all this talk of Test cricket, did you see earlier in the Big Bash, Phil? Did you see what happened in the Big Bash?
Oh, my word. What was that all about?
Josh Brown scored 140 off 57 balls to put Brisbane Heat into the final. They beat Adelaide Strikers by 54 runs. I was watching his innings on I think on the Sky Sports app. They put his innings together in about 6 minutes, and I actually thought I'd watched the same shot 4 times. And he was absolutely sensational.
Yeah, it was just in the zone, wasn't it? And the sound, was it 11 or 12 sixes? The sound, it was absolutely disappearing, wasn't it?
12 sixes, a competition record 112 of his runs, 112 of the 140, so that's 80% of his score came from boundaries.
Yeah, I mean, teed off, absolutely teed off.
Absolutely.